Hello, and welcome to Easier Habits Live, your favorite 8 a.m. Central Business Strategy live stream. So, I'm Alec from Easier Habits. I am a business growth consultant, and normally I have Meg by my side, who is a global English business communication coach, focusing very much on actually Japanese entrepreneurs right now. However, she's out of town with family, seeing folks before the holidays, so you've got me today. And we usually organize this in a business communication tip, or communication tip, I guess business or just general communication tip, an update or strategy topic, which has been marketing for the last little bit, which we're still working through, and then a business tip at the end. So I will be doing all three today. So the communication tip for today, I work with my clients mostly on either working through difficult communications non-confrontationally, right? That kind of nonviolent communication, listening skills, etc., and also with persuasion and negotiation, less just clear how do you speak. So I'll lean into the persuasion negotiation side of things today. And one of the tips is that your communication becomes a lot more powerful depending on when you communicate, getting the right timing. And you really knew this as a little kid. If you wanted something from mom or dad, you knew there were good times to ask them for things, like right when they're happy, when they're in a good mood, and bad times to ask them for things like when they're angry, etc. That's a very simple example, but the same thing is true in business, and it relates to everything we're doing with marketing. So the idea is not only to target the right people, but if you really want to take your marketing to the next level, which admittedly I am still working on, you want to get the right people at the right time. A few business tips ago, I think I talked about, for example, of like information intent versus buying intent, which is a huge thing if you're placing ads in Google, especially where people search some terms to get information, and those people are not ready to buy, whereas people seeking with buying intent are obviously, like, they're searching for what's an example of information versus buying intent. How to fly fish. Someone might just be curious in like how it works, right? They may not be at the buying a fly fishing rod stage, but when someone's searching for best fly fishing rod for beginners or something like that, right? They are looking to get that fly fishing rod, so they're much more likely to be, have buying intent. So that's an example. Now, as far as I understand that space with fly fishing rods, or not specifically fly fishing rods, but Google ads and whatnot, very often, right, the buying intent is easier to gauge, and it is more likely to result in immediate sales, so those are more expensive. And the small business opportunity there is actually to try and target people with information intent who will soon be buying. And so you have an information or article, but then that is embedded in a website with calls to action, etc., so that when they're ready to buy, and possibly right after even reading that article, that they actually go directly to you rather than searching again. So that's so it's not always like go for information intent, but you want to match up what you are offering with the timing for the person. So if they're going for information intent, don't try and sell them something. Give them the information they want, and then offer more information or a next step, or join this list for tips, beginner's tips on fly fishing, right? That gets them in their email list, and then you sell to them, etc. So that is an example of getting not only the right communication, but the right communication at the right time. One of the examples from my personal practice as a coach I've been thinking about is things slowed down a lot during Christmas. One of the reasons why I prioritize getting Meg's funnel out before Christmas, or last week, and it should be live today. One of the reasons why I got that funnel ready is because in Japan, there is a big holiday for the last week of the calendar year as in next week, but there's still likely to be people working this week, so I figured she was more likely to get traction on her ads than I will. I will get something up today and run that very shortly after hers goes live. I'll at least get something by this afternoon, but I'm not sure the data that I'm going to get, partially because the timing for her audience is probably going to be better than the timing for my audience, some of whom well, let's be honest, a lot of entrepreneurs are going to be working through the holidays, but they're probably trying to do, balance their work with time for family and holidays and other things like that. And so the extra attention they have to start a new coaching relationship, debatable, but I did at least brainstorm one thing that might be more effective than my generic offer of the pre-partnership, I guess it's not generic, but evergreen offer of pre-partnership checklists, like what to do before you jump into a partnership. And I guess that's evergreen in general because there's always people forming partnerships at various times of the year. But again, like if I could find a way to get right in front of someone when they're thinking about that, and that's why I haven't quite gotten there yet, but Google Ads or not Google Ads, but YouTube Ads in specific is interesting to me, is because if someone's looking up how to find that partnership, that is a great place to put in, or like how to find a partnership, or how to judge if you've got a good partner, etc. They're someone who's already considering that, and so what I have will be really topical versus just throwing out an ad on LinkedIn in general, right? Content marketing will work for the long haul, but if you want to get clients now, try and work with advertising. So that is a tricky one, and it's not a tricky one to get right, and it's not seasonal. So something that might be seasonal, for example, in my own ad would be, I was thinking about another offering about being stuck in your business. And if someone is on LinkedIn this week or next week during this Christmas time, they're an entrepreneur who's kind of a workaholic. Maybe they don't feel as free as they'd like to be in their business. And so I could try an ad speaking directly to that. Like, hey, working through Christmas, right? Very topical. Hey, entrepreneur, working through Christmas. If you're having a hard time and you're stuck, here is a simple way to identify where you're stuck in your business and get some ideas of how to get unstuck. Right? I could offer that. And that would be, I could either offer that as a video or like a downloadable PDF, a self-inventory, and then we'll see, we'll see. That would be very topical and an example of finding not only the right communication, but the right time. And so, lots of examples. Hope that's helpful. That seemed very relevant to marketing. Right? And so you want to get the right person at the right time. And if you can do those two things, then selling becomes a lot easier, right? A lot of times the difficulty in selling is, one, sometimes we're not even finding the right person. So, they're just not interested. And you're going to feel like a snake oil salesman or something like that because you're selling them something they don't need. Or you're, finding the right person, but it's not the right time, so they're not interested in buying, they're not ready to buy, etc. And there are things you can do to move them along that spectrum, but if you find that you feel like you have to be really pushy with people, well, it's probably because they're not ready to buy. And again, there are things you can do to help someone who has a problem get ready to see the solution for the problem, and that that it's exactly what they need. There are ways you can get people ready, but at the end, the easiest thing you can do, if you can swing it, the easiest sell you can make if you can swing it, is the right person at the right time, because a lot of times that's kind of how referrals work. And one of the reasons why they're very idiosyncratic, right, is because, a friend of a friend says, man, I really am stuck with this problem. And one of your clients or customers says, oh, well, I use so-and-so to solve that, right? They just happen to be there, right person, right time without trying, which is why it's kind of rare. And then that person's like, oh, well, not only is the right person, right time, but now you've got like a personal connection. So that's why referral is powerful. So in your communications, if you're struggling with some form of communication, be it with a partner or with your marketing, maybe think about the timing of that communication as well as the contents of that communication. So the update I gave, actually a good chunk of my update in the communication tip. So Meg's ad should go live, and I'm excited for that. It should go live today, I think even this morning, which it's still evening in Japan, so we might catch a few people. Probably not a ton until later this evening when it's morning in Japan again, so the timing will be off, but hopefully there'll be at least a few people seeing it and clicking through. We'll see if Meg has the same challenge that I have, or rather, since I'm writing the ads at her landing page, if my ability to write ads that convert exceeds my ability to write landing pages that convert, we'll see that, or maybe she just has a better offer. So we'll get more data. It's really about trying things and getting out there. I haven't really built up funnels before, but I will try my second round of funnels, bringing it a little bit more in line with what we're doing with Meg's stuff, where she has a lead magnet to join up her email, like a specific thing that is a free pitch template. I'm offering a pre-partnership checklist. A checklist of things to do before you sign up with a partner. And so then after that is delivered, the confirmation page or the thank you page for the form is a VSL talking about our video sign up letter, our video sales letter, basically giving some tips on the partnership, in my case, the partnership checklist, and then upselling someone to a free conversation. And basically the idea here, I think, both for Meg and for me as people who are service providers, and a lot of our business hinges on the connection with people, if I talk to someone and they genuinely want coaching, it's not very often that I don't get a sale. If I get a sale, it's because someone doesn't really know what they want. And that's one of the things I do when I sit down with people in a free session, is I might chart out like, here's what you'll get from a therapist, here's what you'll get from a specific consultant in a particular area, and here's what you'll get with me helping you identify where you need more consistent habits. So, and business systems, and I will help you identify, clarify your goals, identify the obstacles, get into the routine that you need to overcome them, like I've been working with Meg, for instance, specifically on getting into the habit of delivering content more, opening content more, rather than like sequestering herself and working on that alone for a week, but like trying to deliver something every day. I think actually the content schedule thing we last talked about will be really helpful for her, again, in just the sense of like putting some content out there every day, low stakes content, and so I work with people a lot on that type of thing, sometimes very specifically around product development and tech product development process, like software, web development process, etc. So that's the kind of thing I will prognosticate, in the future. Is like, this is what this option will look like. This is what this option will look like. And that's also something I generally do as people are having issues in their business, say like, hey, here's a range of options. What are we going for here? And a lot of people get stuck on the immediate problem. They don't really like think a few steps down the road. So having seeing several paths and thinking a few steps down the road in each path usually makes things much clearer for people. So anyway, so I have that free session. And again, I don't really miss sales where someone's like, I need help executing in my business, or I'm stuck in my business. I have, especially if I have a absentee or dysfunctional co-founder or executives in the business, that is a sure sign that usually someone would like a business partnership with someone who's encouraging, can help them think through strategically what they need, and help them with the execution plan. And so those tend to be easy. The sales I don't tend to get are the people who don't know what they want. So my goal in this video sales funnel, from that digression, I apologize, is to make it as easy as possible to talk to me if you're the right person. And it's hard to focus on either getting more people to talk to you or restricting that funnel. So I am leaning in the direction of, I want to make it as easy as possible for people to talk to me or talk to Meg. Now, I have a fairly high confidence if someone is considering a business partner, which is why I'm interested in this particular junction right now. They're looking for help. If they're considering a business partner, they're willing to give away part of their company, part of their equity, so they're willing to pay for it. Usually, a few of them may not have the money, right? They're giving away equity because they don't have the capital. And some of them might be looking, to give away equity for capital, etc. Those probably are not my ideal clients, and maybe that's even something I could say in a video sales letter, like, look, if you have zero capital, coaching may not be for you. But here, check out these videos about XYZ, and they might help you bootstrap yourself, get more income, and then we can talk, etc. But for the most part, like, people who are looking for a partner are early on in their business process. They're looking to get help. They're willing to pay for it. And they're about to make a very expensive and risky decision that I could help them, if it's the right fit, help them make a less risk, lower cost solution to solving some of their problems. Like, I could talk through them, like, all right, what do you need with the marketing? Why don't we try it out? Why don't we do a low risk plan where we'll try these several things. If you don't see anything in the first month, I'll be half off or free or guarantee or whatever. I don't do guarantees very often with people because the goals tend to be highly unique, and guarantees work better with a very systemized approach, but I hope to develop systemized approach for various things as I go. I can guarantee they will have one new helpful habit in by the end of the month. That's something that happens, but habit looks different for everybody. So it's a little tricky to add what result guarantee I will give someone. So, in either case, I have what I'm saying here, boiling this down and to its core is, what I'm saying is, like, the reason why I'm working on this partnership angle, I might not have the right offer for it. I might not be able to construct the right offer for it, but I'm interested in it partly because it is the right person at a right time in their life where they're open to bringing somebody on board to their business. And so that's, so I'm not as worried, especially in my case, about, will these people be qualified to go for a coach? And I just want to make it as easy as possible to talk to me. Now, it might happen, right, that I get a flood of, eventually when I figure out this funnel, I would get a flood of people signing up to talk with me through the partnership thing. And again, there are all the people who have no capital and want a partnership to get capital or something like that. And then maybe I'll produce like an FAQ for those particular people after having had a lot of those conversations to help them, and I might say in my video sales letter, like, sorry, if you have no capital at the moment, coaching is not right for you, but here, check out this free FAQ I had around specifically trying to get partners for capital or something like that. So I can introduce friction, actually tell some people, like, this is not for you, which is something you can do if you're getting a lot of unqualified leads that are taking a lot of your time out of a funnel. But introducing it's much easier, I feel like, to create a funnel that gets lots of calendar invites and then just emotionally, motivationally, it feels like something's happening versus introducing friction and then trying to get more people through that funnel. I feel like you won't know where to introduce the right friction, right, if you don't have a funnel that's already flowing. So get the funnel flowing first, and then try and figure out ways that you can sculpt it to either help people get qualified or remove people who are just not going to be qualified for your services, not a good fit, etc. So, and then, if you have a funnel that only delivers people who are poorly qualified for your services, you might have to go back to the drawing board and check the offer. So that is the update on kind of my funnel goals, but I teased in the headline that I wanted to talk about my goal setting and mindset processes more generally, because that's what I work on actually over the weekend. I wasn't doing a lot of this funnel stuff over the weekend, a little bit here and there, but when you're solo parenting, especially around Christmas with lots of activities, then things get really difficult in terms of finding time to work over the weekend. So, but one thing I do always make time for is a weekly check-in. Now, the evolution of this came slowly over a while. When I first started developing a habit and I realized that I needed personal accountability because I hated habits, having discovered how to create a habit that works for myself, I love evangelizing and helping other people with that. But the first thing I was trying to do was I was realizing that yoga helped clear out my sinuses and help my circulation and a whole bunch of things. I was almost deathly allergic to literally having a hard time breathing in a Japanese apartment in the remote mountains, and it was cold all the time and I was cold all the time. And I found in doing some yoga, let my sinuses flow a little bit and be less allergic for a while, as well as my circulation running so I wasn't quite so cold. And I knew I had something I should do, but I was having a hard time keeping to the process, and I realized it just needed accountability. So I think I started with my first goal setting framework was a checkbox that I would check if I had succeeded, if I had done any yoga before bed. And a lot of times I hadn't done yoga before bed, so I did like 10 seconds of stretching or 30 seconds of stretching, check the box, and then went to sleep, just to start to build that habit. And then as time went forward, I would check the box for a bigger piece of the habit, right? Did I do at least 5 minutes of yoga? And I found probably like 5 to 10 minutes of yoga was the area where I started to see several hours of impact, right? I was seeing the impact on the scale that I wanted, which isn't very long. And then I started having goals about doing that in the morning, because doing it right before bed was not really helpful. I was just about to be unconscious. Was I gonna do it in the morning when I had the kids? And that was fun times with I guess a 1-year-old crawling under me as I did downward dog, and I guess about a 2 to 3-year-old trying to use me as a slide. Fun times, all right? But that was like the simplest way that I was not an organized person. I didn't do these goals, I didn't do journaling, I didn't do anything like that. That was how it started. And then eventually I started stacking more and more things, right? I wanted to collect data about how the day went that wasn't just a yes or no question. And so I think I adopted something loosely from like the 5-minute journal. I forget who puts that out. But some concepts of that, like, all right, I, want to talk about the good and bad of my day in a way that like can't be done through a pre-prepared checkbox. So I have this space for what went well, what didn't go so well. And that was very general. And then, and I did that every day. And that was helpful while I was getting things started. But I eventually found that for me, the right cadence was not every day, as I got into the habit of saying like, what's good, what's bad, what did I learn every day? And I think actually I had, what am I grateful for? Which is a great, also great piece of a daily routine. But eventually I moved that weekly, because that was the right cadence at which I could attack somewhat bigger goals. And it was just easier, right? Like I got most of the benefit of doing the daily check-in, which is just having an overarching thing to work on. But I had several days to try it different ways and practice it and get it right. And so that's what has made sense to me, and that's where I've been actually for several years. And I've tried different frameworks. I think there's like the 12-week year. I tried that. And to be honest, like because what I'm doing is often like learning completely new things, or trying completely new ventures, what the 12-week year says, start with a 3-month goal, work yourself, backwards, and plan each week what you're going to do. And like, in the first 3 weeks, or the first, month of that, I've already so completely departed from like where I thought I was headed that like this whole 12-week year thing really didn't work. Or either the fact of like, I'm, in starting a 3-month project, if it's something new, I just don't know at all what I need, and so I do something hyper ambitious, and then I realize like I didn't set a 3-month goal, I set a a 6-month or 12-month goal, etc. And that's the idea of like, oh, you can, the 12 or 12-week year idea is like, oh, you can, get more done in 3 months than you thought you could do in a year. And I'm like, not just by setting a goal in 3 months and working backwards. Like, that's true if you don't set goals, period. But it wasn't necessarily more helpful than what I do every week, which is just sit down, where am I stuck in my business, what are my long-term goals, what can I do this week to further my long-term goals, and then adjust that week by week. Like, what was I doing last week that didn't work so well? How can I fix that? So that is the general framework that I'm at right now, but I'm trying to supplement that more recently with mindset stuff. So I'm working back in last week. I mentioned that I was journaling on my anxieties, and I did that in the worst possible way. So I kind of combined 2 different exercises and got the worst of both worlds. So in the one exercise, I was doing mindset stuff and doing mindset stuff in a mind map format. Sorry, kids. All right, one moment. Guys, I'm filming. Be quiet. Close your door, please. Oh, kids are home for the holidays and Meg is not here. So, all right. One exercise I was doing for the mindset was mind mapping out all of my anxieties. So I've done this exercise just like off and on as needed, and sometimes as part of my weekly routine. And that was actually really helpful in the sense of I listed out all of the things I was frustrated with and came to the end where like, all right, I have nothing more that I'm frustrated with or worried about, etc. I've gotten it all out of my head, and it all fits on a single piece of paper, which feels a lot less smaller, or a lot smaller, a lot more contained, a lot more manageable is what I was going for. Right? So I did that exercise, and I've had other exercise where I journal, and this is very different, where I go deep on a particular anxiety and try and get to the root of why I feel that anxiety. Like, what is it that is driving this? What were some circumstances in the past where I might have learned this behavior, etc. And so I basically last week tried to combine both of those approaches, and so I was like, all right, maybe I'll try and clear my head by every night journaling on an anxiety, and in a page or 2, so it wasn't like the most elaborate, maybe 10 minutes or something like that. You step back, all right, why do I feel that anxious? Where have I felt that in the past? What can I learn from this? What's missing here? And I did that for every night of the week, and that worked all right. I admit I punted on Monday. I was going to do this before bed. I tended to procrastinate this because it's an unpleasant thing, and my goal is just I had to do it before bed, and so I just wouldn't go to bed, so I stayed up later, got less sleep, which is not helpful. And the first time that I did this journal exercise, I did it on anxieties I have around giving gifts and the ways I get stressed out and feel inadequate in giving gifts, and thought about some childhood experiences where I felt embarrassed about giving gifts or receiving gifts, etc. And that helped me make sure that I got my Christmas gift sent out on time, which I was kind of running later in the season. Like, Meg has her gifts like starting in November. She's just like on point with that, and I worry over it for a while, and then until like I absolutely can't, and at least doing it last week, I had plenty of time for presents to get where they needed to go, and the journaling helped. But then I journaled on something different the next night and dived into like why I was anxious about, marketing, why I was anxious about, I did a few things. Now it's all kind of a blur, but could have been, for instance, what resistances do I have to marketing, which I found like I don't have any particular worry. I just didn't have a positive story to tell myself about marketing, because I have done word of mouth successfully before. I've gotten referrals, which makes me feel great that somebody loves what I'm doing. I have some testimonials, etc., which makes me feel great that people like what I'm doing and want to share it. But the repeatable marketing thing I'm working on. So I was just trying to see, like, all right, what are my anxieties there? And I'm like, I don't really have one. I just don't have the confidence yet, or I haven't seen how it will work out. And it might be worth working with someone who is, getting coaching or consulting specifically in this area for me. But at heart, I just need to tell myself the right stories about, I already know there's people that are looking for my services because I've happened to luck into several, just via my networks. I know they're out there. I just need to find a way to reach out to them. And I'm not expecting every marketing campaign to work, but this is how I learn and how I will improve that and be able to reach out to people who need my services. So, I just need to focus on the positive stories and build those up. I don't really have like a specific anxiety that, like, I am not a good marketer. Well, like, I am an unskilled marketer. I'm not a good marketer yet. I don't really have like a mental block there. So I started, diving into these anxieties, but when you stack up, more than one or two, when you start to stack up 3 and 4, then wow, it felt like just opening a whole bunch of emotional and anxiety-ridden cans of worms, and then they crawled everywhere. I didn't really have enough time to make life changes in mind to deal with one, and so basically what I've done is I take all of these things that I shove down, not quite subconscious, but they're in the background, and then I push them out when they take center stage, which is like what I normally do during the work. I took all of them and sat them center stage, and I had no plan for really, and no time for how to get them all off stage. So I just had all my anxieties front and center that week, and that was a mess. So in terms of mindset, how I work through difficulties, at least, like anxieties, primarily, I have an anxious personality. How I work through anxieties, the 2 ways that I found are more successful are if I'm in a generally anxious state and I don't know what I'm anxious about, I do a mind map that's like a central image with like little branching lines off of that. So I might have, usually when I do this, I don't just do anxieties, right? I will do, I'll have a branch for anxiety, but might have a branch for guilt, or frustration, or just like all my negative feelings, and then usually after attacking those things, I'll do what I'm proud of, what I'm happy about, what I'm grateful for. I'll try and balance it out so that I don't have just the negative, which was another thing I guess that I didn't really do in the journals. Like, I just journaled about anxiety. And on the flip side, going to journaling, basically journaling through your anxieties and asking some questions. One line of getting through anxieties is like the 7 whys. So, I mean, if you can get to 7 whys, you really got to the bottom of things. Sometimes people find that, even just like 3 whys is enough to get to a pretty solid root of an anxiety or a blocker, etc. But you just, write down, what is your anxiety? Why do you have that? What's your evidence that you have that? Well, what's that evidence? What's behind that evidence? What were you thinking? What were you feeling? Why were you feeling that way? Why did this person respond that way, etc. And you just keep going 7 whys deep to try and figure out like what's the most basic thing, the most central core thing from your experiences, feelings, etc. And then you try and nurture that. My strategy for that is, I try and coach myself like I were a client. Like, if I had a client struggling with this, what would I say to them? What would I help them do, etc.? How would I validate them? Say, yeah, this is a genuinely hard problem. You're not a weak or powerless person because you have this problem. That's a problem lots of people face, and we can do something about it, etc. Right? Like, just kind of work through that self-talk. So, and then there's some alternate things, what could I learn from this? And I also think like, all right, how kind of a flip side, sometimes I do the self-coaching thing. Flip side would be like, how would the most ideal form of Alec deal with this? The ideal version, how would a wiser, 5 years, 10 years down the road, wiser Alec deal with this situation. And that is, and so journaling through that. And so what I think the fusion of all of this that I'm going to try this week would be is I will mind map out, anxieties, frustrations, whatnot. I will, and stuff I'm grateful for, pick one and journal on just that one. I will journal on that one every night a week, giving myself a chance to try different things throughout the week. And I will have a specific recovery routine, like the self-coaching, positive self-talk afterwards, so I just don't feel absolutely roasted. Anyway, my camera is telling me it's going dark, so we'll see if I can make it through the outro. Sorry, business tip. All right, try journaling every day. But if you're going to journal, don't journal on a different anxiety every day. Try and maybe focus on one theme for the week and try something different every day. So that's the quick business tip. And I guess until tomorrow, make big changes, one small habit at a time.